Meine Damen und
Ladies and gentlemen, I still would like to wish you the very best for the celebration of Easter just behind us. We offer another edition of our live stream. Still has to be in this format due to corona measures. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Veronika Fillitz. I'm one of 3 EU correspondents of the ORF, the Austrian broadcaster. Before we have further insight into the results of the national elections in Bulgaria, I would like to give the floor to Mark Weinmeister, the Secretary of State for European Affairs of the State of Hessen, for introductory remarks and his words of welcome. Hello. A cordial welcome to all of you from Hessen. You as participants of our event dedicated to the Bulgarian elections. I'm very eager to hear and see what insight we will gather, because this is, after the Netherlands, the second national election in an EU member state. And there will be national elections later this year in Germany, so it's of great interest to look at how are election campaigns being shaped, what are the focus themes. Obviously, Corona will be very central and essential. And it was very exciting to see events happening in Bulgaria in particular, with the mass protests against Prime Minister Borisov, where it's about allegations of corruption and other issues. The question was and is, what is the impact of all that on the election results? We have initial figures, and it's very interesting to have a closer look at these figures and also to hear the explanation. And the government party led by Borisov has losses. That was to be expected. So there were several percentage points lost with regard to the last elections in 2017. But the great loss of the Socialist Party, that was a surprise to me. They are only in position 3, potentially. And then the rise of the party from 0 to 18% of the TV personality, Trifonov. So that is something where we face the question how to form a coalition government in Bulgaria. That seems to be a very, very difficult task. We already have announcement that several parties are not willing to enter into a coalition government. Very odious question also when we think of the following point. What about the relations between Bulgaria and the EU? And what does it mean for the negotiations with North Macedonia? And another issue is how will Bulgaria continue to fight the pandemic? And another interesting question is the special relationship Bulgaria has always had with Russia. What will this mean for the further contact between the EU and Russia? I'm excited to welcome Mrs. Apostolova, second time after 2017. You were our guest then. You gave us a lot of insight then. You will do the same today. We are grateful that you joined us, and we are also grateful for Mrs. Fillitz for being our facilitator by asking questions. And I know and understand that these will be questions we are all very interested in. I wish all of us the very best of success and a very exciting and interesting event. Thank you very much, Secretary of State. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, please use our hotline to place your questions. 0032 472 030181 by telephone, or you can send an email. The address is streamline@lv-brussel.hessen.de. So if you want to share in our discussion, give us your questions. Now I'm happy to introduce my Bulgarian colleague.
Apostolova, you have been the EU correspondent for the Bulgarian national TV for 5 years now.
5 years now,
but
yes.
you've been to Brussels much longer. In 2011 you arrived, and before that you worked for several newspapers and online media, so you are a real expert in Brussels, in EU affairs, and of course in Bulgarian politics. So please tell us more about the Bulgarian elections and the voting outcomes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. And it was really very interesting election for Bulgaria. The second one this year, as after the Netherlands in pandemic. And Bulgaria, the name of our presentation is Bulgaria has voted, but if I may continue, I think Bulgaria may soon vote again, and I will try to explain why I think so. Just for the result. The GERB, the party of the Prime Minister Boyko Borisov, came first in these elections with 22% of the votes. However, GERB has lost at least 6% of the voters in compared to 2017 elections. In Bulgarian press, the last days, it said that Borisov has won the battle, but he lost the war because forming a coalition will be really very difficult, if not impossible. The biggest winner of this election is clearly the second party, and this is There Is Such a People, a bit weird name, but of Slavi Trifonov, who is a very famous Bulgarian entertainer, on whom more later in my presentation, but There Is Such a People attracts 18% of the votes. The third party is the socialist BCP, the successor of the Communist Party. They attract 15% of the votes, more than 13% down compared to 2017. Historically, this is really the worst election result since the fall of the communism. The fourth party is the liberal Turkish minority party for rights and freedoms. That's they have almost 10% of the voters. Historically, they have always been the third party in Bulgaria after GERB and the socialists. Now they receive almost the same numbers of votes. Let me say that these are not the official results. The official results will be are expected a bit later today, but my presentation is on maybe more than 90% of the votes counted. Another winner of the election is the Democratic Bulgaria, the fifth party in the parliament with almost 10% of the votes. The Democratic Bulgaria is a coalition of two smaller Christian democratic parties and one green party, and after a long time Bulgaria will have a green party in the represented in the parliament again. Another new coalition in the Bulgarian National Assembly or in the parliament is Stand Up Mafia Out, another weird name of Maya Manova. She was a former member of the Socialist Party, and she was also former ombudswoman of Bulgaria. She was the driving force after one movement with the name Stand Up Bulgaria, and she joined forces with two leaders of the protest from last year, and they got nearly 5% of the votes. The parties that didn't reach the threshold of 4% will not longer be represented in the parliament are the GERB's current coalition partners, United Patriot and Vola. It is very interesting to mention the votes of the Bulgarians abroad. Almost 2 million Bulgarians live abroad the last years after the communism. The first party there was not GERB, and the first party there was There Is Such a People, the new party of Slavi Trifonov, following by Democratic Bulgaria. It would seem that There Is Such a People has attracted the protest vote of the people of the Bulgarian abroad, and with the Bulgarian abroad with higher education tend to vote for democratic Bulgaria. I will try to explain the possible coalition and the allocation of the seats in the Bulgarian parliament. I think by far the greatest puzzle for Borisov, but also for the other party, will be the formation of the new coalition and the new government. In his speech in Facebook on the election nights, Borisov has invited all the parties just to enjoy the election results for 2 or 3 days, and then to form an expert government with broad support of all the parties. This maybe, according to him, it will be the best way to manage the COVID crisis. But I don't think that other parties are very keen on this idea. Of the current parties in the parliament, the only one who could be the coalition partner with GERB is the Turkish minority party, DPC, but it's not very sure as well. All other parties have declared in the night after the election publicly that they refuse to enter in the coalition with GERB, with the party of the Prime Minister Borisov. But the coalition without GERB will prove to be very difficult as well. There is such a people is willing to work together with the other newcomers in the parliament, with all parties except GERB and BCP. But the Democratic Bulgaria, for instance, have already refused to start talks with There Is Such a People. It will be really a puzzle to build to form a new coalition and a new government. I think, and political analysts already hinted at need of new election, and I think this is a very possible scenario for later this year in September. At short, if I may, some of the current Bulgarian landscape is a weakened GERB, seriously weakened socialist party, and 3 political newcomers in the National Assembly. One of them was very successful. The other 2, the second one attracted the high education votes, and the third one was not super successful, but successful as well. I will say a few words over the faces, the famous faces in the Bulgarian parties, and let's start with the Prime Minister Borisov. He has been the Prime Minister since 2009 with only 2 short intervals. He's an ex-fireman. I think a lot of people know his biography, ex-bodyguard of the last Bulgarian communist dictator Todor Živkov, ex-bodyguard of the last Bulgarian king Simeon von Saxe-Coburg, who also used to be the Bulgarian prime minister for 4 years. And he's, if I may describe, so Boyko Borisov is really a political survivor, and he still has the sympathy of the maybe 1/4 of the population if you see the election results. Let me just mention that the turnout in Bulgaria was a bit more than 40%, not very high. Boyko Borisov, his party, GERB, is a member of the European People Party. He avoids always open conflict with the European People Party, like Viktor Orban has done in the past. But he developed very close relationship with people like Juncker or Frau Merkel or Weber and other European politicians. Last year, during the anti-corruption protest, Weber maintained his support for Borisov and for his party, and he said then that he said that the protests are respected, but the only general election can decide on the way forward. Maybe something interesting as well. Last year, however, photographs appeared in some Bulgarian media with Borisov sleeping in his bedroom, in his officially state's residency with a gun, with a large quantity of 500 euro notes and some gold nuggets. Borisov admitted to owning a gun legally, but claimed that the photos were fake. Maybe something interesting is in this Donald Tusk summarized the situation as follows: it would seem that Boyko Borisov have a complicated life. On more serious note, GERB is still accused with corruption by many, although the country has developed for the better in some areas, but Bulgaria is still the poorest and the most corrupt country in the European Union, according to Transparency International. The other new face in the Bulgarian politics is Slavi Trifonov. Very interesting man. Slavi Trifonov is, he's definitely not one that you would like to meet in a park late at night, because he looks like Balkan macho and has tattoos all over his body. He's a musician, entertainer. He's owner of the TV channel, and he's really extremely popular in Bulgaria. He claimed to be the Bulgarian Larry King. He has one late night show in Bulgaria. His party, there is such a people, or in Deutsch is Gipswein Volk, is the typical protest party, draining votes from GERB, from the socialists, and from the Bulgarian patriots. He can be compared somehow with Pepe Grillo in Italy, or with Zelensky in the Ukraine. But later we can talk more about Trifonov. I would like to say some. This is the leader of the Socialist Party. Many people in Bulgaria say that the party suffers from internal tensions, and this is very divided because of the leader Cornelia Ninova, and that the Socialist Party became really leader party. Yesterday, the whole executive bureau of the Bulgarian Socialist Party has resigned, except Ninova herself. That says a lot. Maybe very quickly, just this is the leader of the Turkish minority parties. As I said, the Turkish party has been always representing the Bulgarian National Assembly after the communism. And just very quickly, a few words on the Democratic Bulgaria. This is the other new party in the parliament, and Hristo Ivanov is one of the faces of this coalition. As I said, this is coalition between two parties, two Christian democratic parties and one Green party. This is the most, this party attracts really the votes of the high educated Bulgarian in Bulgaria and the Bulgarian abroad. And Hristo Ivanov is somebody who have been always, his biggest battle in Bulgaria is for rule of law and anti-corruption. And maybe just at the end, just to mention the other new party in the parliament, and this is the party with the weird name, Stand Up Bulgaria Mafia Out. And Maya Manova is the face of this party. She's, as mentioned, the ex-ombudswoman and has gained her popularity from this function. And this is the party who was born last year during the protest in Bulgaria. I can stop here and we can discuss the other things with my colleague.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your presentation. We will come back to a few people you just mentioned, but for the beginning, I would like to start with, well, the dominating factor in basically all of our lives, the pandemic, because elections in the middle of a pandemic, they are a challenge, of course, for the institutions, for the parties, and for the people themselves as well. How influential was the topic Corona, the pandemic, in the election campaigns? I mean, we knew, or we learned that Bulgaria is quite heavily hit by the pandemic, and there is a debate about a lack of vaccinations with a strong Austrian involvement as well. Bulgaria got more than 1 million extra doses of vaccinations. Was that an issue in the election campaigns?
The COVID was really an issue. I should say it was definitely one of the main issues in the campaign, because, as you mentioned, GERB was criticized by many for the poor managing of the crisis and for the lack of vaccination strategy. And really, of course, there is some contradictions between what Borisov himself says and what the numbers says, because he says always that Bulgaria is doing very good with managing the crisis, but Bulgaria is at the last place in Europe on vaccination, and this says a lot. And really, COVID was I would say COVID was really issue number one in the campaign.
And I read that there were kind of an easing of the measurements just before the election itself. Did that maybe?
This is also something very interesting, because the measures in Bulgaria change really every week. It is weakness and then it's strengthening the measure, and the people are really confused what happened. It's the communication is really bad between the government, the administration. And there are frustration on this, yes.
Quite contrary to the Netherlands, there was no postal vote possible. There were no extra measurements taken to kind of take care of Corona things. Did that influence the turnout? So did people stay at home because of Corona?
Yeah, but postal voting in Bulgaria is not possible by law. The only things this year was the introduction of machine voting. But I would say that this didn't change the way of voting. It didn't change the administration around the vote. It was really frustrating for the Bulgarian abroad because they wanted to vote, and they should travel 100 kilometers to find the place where they can vote. But really the organization was not optimal, and yeah, that's.
And did that turnout? Did that have influence on the turnout?
Not really, because historically in Bulgaria the turnout is not so high, not so like the Dutch election. 80% in Bulgaria is just 40%, and I think the last election, I didn't check exactly, but I think it was 42 or 43%. There is not a big difference.
And is that an issue? Why do people not, in general, or why don't more people go vote? Or is there a special campaign that more and more people should go voting?
The people don't like the parties in Bulgaria, and now, as we can see in this, it was really protest vote with the newcomers in the assembly, but it's really traditional. The people in Bulgaria don't vote, don't like to vote. The most 40% is something, but it's not.
Yeah, and the winner is once again Boyko Borisov, as you mentioned. He already had to step down twice as prime minister due to corruption allegations. He has been under heavy criticism for, on the one hand, corruption, for nepotism, and for various things, but that has not yet harmed him. He has made several comebacks, and again he lost votes, but still he turned out to be the winner of this election. How does he manage? How does he manage to have one comeback after the other, and how does he manage to be re-elected again and again?
Yes, as I mentioned, Borisov is really a political survivor. If I can compare him to, he's something like Mark Rutte in Netherlands. But he reads very well the political situation. He knows very good his way to Brussels. He has very good connection with the European people parties. As I said, he's very proud with his good relationship with Frau Merkel, or with Manfred Weber, or with Donald Tusk, with all the people from the European People Party.
So he is more in line with Europe, with European politics. So he's a pro-European.
Yeah, he is definitely pro-Europe. It's not that that's not the problem from the GERB. This pro-European party. But the problem is the corruption in Bulgaria, and that they did a lot to stop the corruption. To stop the corruption.
Yeah, corruption is an issue that always pops up when you talk about Bulgaria, or when you think about Bulgaria. Rule of law, freedom of media, nepotism, bribery, these are other kind of words that come up, at least from a European point of view. How important were these topics and allegations in these elections?
These are important topics, and they are always important for the Bulgarians, and they are very important for the new parties, for the newcomers, for the parties like Democratic Bulgaria. There is such a people. the freedom of media is something very important and very sensitive for the Bulgarians. Bulgaria is in place 111 of 180 countries in the Reporter Without Borders list, and we, of course, this is very frustrating for the people in Bulgaria, for the media in Bulgaria. But however, Borisov remained the biggest party, but that was something very interesting in this campaign. For example, the second party, there is such a people. They didn't use the other media. Slavi Trifonov used just his only channel to make campaign, and the social media. The Bulgarian Prime Minister Borisov didn't give even one interview to the journalists. Everything was on his Facebook website. We can everything what he says to the Bulgarian is in Facebook. It's really weird situation for the journalists and for the people and for the society there.
You mentioned this new party. There is
such a people.
There is such a people, ETN party, founded by the musician and TV presenter Slavi Trifonov. You mentioned it in your presentation. He seems to stand in the line of Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine and Beppe Grillo in Italy, as a newcomer, as a populist, as someone who hasn't a proper political program. So is at least my impression. Am I right? Is he in the line and just a populist for the sake of being a populist?
Yes, I could say there are similarities with Grillo and Zelensky in the Ukraine, but he's really very popular in Bulgaria for the last 30 years. He's really TV faced. Everyone knows him, and his main program, his main issues was the anti-GERB narrative, and he is against GERB, but we don't know very well what is he for, what he stands for, and so we will see this in the.
So he's no very likely coalition partner for the GERB.
No.
Because that would be a kind of mistrusting in the voters.
He declared that there will be no coalition between GERB and the researcher people.
Mm-hmm. Another newly created party you mentioned briefly, this platform of NGOs, the ISBG, the Anti-Mafia Party, run by Maya Manolova.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I find this party quite interesting because it is run by a woman. How important are women in Bulgarian politics and in the parliament?
I don't think that. I think the women are good represented in the Bulgarian politics. Not only Maya Manova, the Socialist Party also have Cornelia Ninova. She's also the Bulgarian Foreign Minister is also a woman. The President of the National Assembly, the last one, was also a woman. I don't think that this is an issue for Bulgaria. Maybe the position of the woman in the Bulgarian society, this is something different. I could describe this as problematic, but in the politics they are very good represented by, when we talk about domestic violence or issues like this, then there are problems in Bulgaria. Bulgaria didn't ratify the Istanbul Convention, for example. Mm-hmm. But in the politics they are good.
And
however, they are.
Did she this platform of NGOs, as I hope you excuse me, just term this this party? For example, this not taking part in the Istanbul Convention, did she manage that? Was that an issue? I mean, we heard that Turkey stepped out of the Istanbul Convention.
Yes, the last week, yeah.
It became an issue in Poland as well. Was that kind of a topic
in Bulgaria? This was an issue 2 years ago, when was the debates on the Istanbul Convention, but all political parties decide then not to ratify the Istanbul Convention.
There were, in general, a few months and years ago, quite a lot of demonstration and protests against Borisov. That has stopped just because of Corona?
Yes, I think the Corona was the main reason.
So the criticism itself did not stop, as we've seen.
Yes, the criticism did not stop, just the protests of in terms of the
Corona. That's Corona. Corona. And you mentioned as well that Democratic Bulgaria, the coalition, the formation of various parties in this Democratic Bulgaria. You said there is also one Green Party.
There is also
part of it. So climate change, is that an issue? Was that an issue or no?
I'm afraid that climate change is not an issue in Bulgarian campaign, except for this coalition, as it should be. And if I see if I compare to Belgium or to Austria or to Netherlands, it's really not a big issue. Or Germany, of course, it's not the Green Deal or the climate change. There are things which are very far from our politicians.
Mm-hmm. Borisov, he now has to form some sort of coalition. He proposed or promised a so-called government of experts, eine Expertenregierung. How could such a government of experts look like? Are there names that kind of popped up?
No, there are no names. This was his first reaction in the election night. He just thought, he on his Facebook website, he thought he said to the other parties, just enjoy your results. 1, 2 or 3 days, and let's start talks on formation on the expert government. But this is the parties are those who have formed the government, even if it is an expert government. I don't think that it will be possible. He don't have the support from the other parties on this idea.
But does he really mean it, this expert government, or is it just a tactics, a political trick, so to say, the last chance for him to get to power?
I think this is the only possible plan for now, with this configuration in the parliament and with this allocation of the seats in the National Assembly. It will be really very, very difficult to form a coalition, a government coalition.
And do you think such a government of experts is quite likely? Is it possible for him to form such a government? This really difficult, because this expert should have the support of the parties as well. And if the parties don't talk with each other, if there is a tension between the party, if there is a sensibilities between the parties, I don't expect that it will work. You said that you think that there will be new elections quite soon.
I mean,
bluntly asked, what would that change?
I can, yes, this is really a good question, but there are presidential elections in September, and I really think that there will be new. If they will change something, I can't say now, but if this parliament doesn't work, there is no other way than new elections.
And this political instability, does this have any influence on European politics as well, on the relationship between Bulgaria and EU?
I don't think so, because all the Bulgarian parties are pro-European, and the people in Bulgaria are pro-European. I don't think that this instability in Bulgaria will change the relationship to the European Union. We don't have these Eurosceptical parties in Bulgaria as well. Euroscepticism is not an issue for the Bulgarian society, for the Bulgarian parties.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your insight in Bulgarian politics. So we are looking ahead quite interesting times in Bulgaria. The election results might have been clear, but the coalition is definitely not. Thank you, Desislava Apostolova, for your insight. Meine Damen und Herren, damit ist unsere bulgarische Mittagsstunde auch schon zu Ende. Ich darf mich recht herzlich bedanken, dass Sie dabei waren.
Over. Thank you very much for having me able to join us. And we're looking forward to upcoming events. Next week there's the next European Talks event, 14th of April, 13 at Trade Policy with Michel Hager. And the next day on the 15th at 1300 hours as well, midday talks concerning the conference on the future of Europe with Vice President Shusha. So if your interest is, join us again. Thank you very much to my colleague. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. And a good day to all of you. Bye-bye.